I'm Chris Giles, the Technical Director of Havilah Resources. A couple of weeks ago I gave a talk at the Copper to the World conference in Adelaide, and unfortunately that talk wasn't videoed, so we can't reproduce it for you. But what I thought I'd do today was just run through the slides that I spoke to at that conference and give you an idea of the subject. We entitled the talk Advancing South Australia's Next Major Copper Province, and of course we were talking about our Curnamona province. I do make some forward statements here, so please be aware of the limitations on those. So, the Curnamona province, we think it's a great place to find copper and gold, and that is really demonstrated by the fact that Havilah has found or delineated two substantial 100% owned copper deposits, which are in both cases surrounded by a large prospective tenement holding. And I'm talking specifically about the Kalkaroo deposit, which lies about 50 kilometres north of the main highway, and Mutaroo, which lies about 16 kilometres south. Now, both these projects and the general area is near Broken Hill. The Transcontinental Railway and the main highway runs through it, the middle of it. Power infrastructure is not far away at Honeymoon and certainly over here at Broken Hill. And we're blessed with ample saline underground water or groundwater, which is suitable for the processing. We're out in the outback of South Australia, as shown in this picture here, with the Kalkaroo lying at depth. And there are no known major impediments to mining in this part of South Australia. So although we're a bit biased, we think it's one of the most favourable places in the world, all things considered, to develop a large-scale, long-life, open-pit copper mine. Now turning first of all to our flagship deposit, Kalkaroo. It's one of the larger undeveloped open-pit copper-gold deposits in Australia at the present time. It contains JORC resources of over 1.1 million tonnes of copper and over 3.1 million ounces of gold and quite a substantial amount of cobalt. It has an ore reserve of 100 million tonnes at a very respectable 0.83% copper equivalent grade, and that is based on optimised open pit down to about 200 metres. And that open pit was optimised that the gold price is about half the current price, less than half actually, and much lower copper prices. And we're actually working on a PFS, updated PFS at the moment, to re-optimise that open pit and to republish these ore reserves and resources in due course. A couple of years ago, comprehensive studies by Oz Minerals and BHP demonstrated a robust open pit copper gold project which had no fatal flaws. Now the project is advantaged by the fact that Havilah owns the surrounding land. There are granted mining leases and a native title mining agreement in place. And these are very important because they provide certainty and they're going to help greatly to expedite the future mining development of Kalkaroo. And as if that's not enough, Kalkaroo has associated critical minerals in quite sizable amounts, namely cobalt, rare earths, molybdenum and tungsten. And it goes without saying, given the copper and gold resources, that the project is highly leveraged to both copper and gold prices. Now the amazing thing about Kalkaroo from an exploration point of view is that its real size is undetermined. We don't really know how big Kalkaroo is. This is the deposit here with the optimised open pit I showed you previously, lying within the mining lease, this white boundary here, and the scale here, 2 kilometres to give you an idea. North is up the page. And the Kalkaroo ore body, as we presently understand it, is completely open to the west, it's open to the east, and it's also open down dip. And the space to substantially expand the size of the Kalkaroo ore body within the existing mining lease. And of course the higher copper and gold prices and the reduced mining cut-off grades that implies means that there's excellent potential to increase the resource to reserve conversion ratio. This nearby prospect here, called Homestead, has sufficient strike length of the prospective mineralised horizon to potentially host another Kalkaroo-sized deposit. So you can see there's a lot of upside at Kalkaroo. We're probably, in truth, just scratching the surface of the deposit. And not only that, Kalkaroo lies within a highly prospective copper belt type terrain, consisting of many domes and basins, granite intrusions, as shown on this aeromagnetic image here. And on this image we've identified 8 prospects in proximity to Kalkaroo at varying distances from 10, 20, 30 kilometres, all of which we've drilled, all of which have potential ore grade intersections, all of which could either turn into a standalone deposit or at the very worst provide additional ore feed for a conceptual centrally located processing plant here at Kalkaroo. And as an example, I'll just take this Urinella dome here, which is about 10 kilometres from one end to the other. It has more than 20 kilometres of virtually untested prospective strike. Now that occurs along strike from quite exceptional copper intersections we've got, including 9.7 metres of 4.56% copper and 1.18 gram per tonne gold on the east side of the dome, and on the west side 8 metres of 6.38% copper and 2.72 gram per tonne gold. Now these intersections occur in a very specific mineralised horizon at just the right RL, where there's been supergene enrichment, and we've determined that there's over 20 kilometres which is virtually undrilled. There are 7 other known prospects, as I said, identified here, which can also potentially provide additional ore feed to Kalkaroo if resources can be defined for them. Turning to our second copper deposit, it's called Mutooroo, and this is quite a different style of deposit. It's more Broken Hill style massive sulphide lode as shown here, and it's comparatively high grade, undeveloped deposit containing 1.53% copper and 0.16% cobalt and 0.2 gram per tonne gold. The total mineral resources, chalk resources, 195,000 tonnes of copper, 20,000 tonnes of cobalt and some gold. The ore body is known to extend over 2 kilometres of strike and to more than 500 metres depth, and it's not closed off by drilling at this stage. The ore body geometry lends itself to a conceptual open pit startup, transitioning via decline to an underground operation. And we've had an association with JX Advanced Metals, a large Japanese smelting refining group at Mutooroo, and we're presently negotiating the terms for them to fund a PFS and feasibility study with a view to developing Mutooroo, if feasible, within the next couple of years. And just as at Kalkaroo, in the areas surrounding Mutooroo, there are a number of prospects with good grade intersections from our drilling. These are typically shear-hosted massive sulphide and quartz sulphide lodes that range from 5 to 30 metres thick, with variable amounts of copper, gold and cobalt. And mostly throughout this area of our tenements, highlighted by this orangey colour here, there's no overburden, meaning that mining development costs are expected to be relatively low, and similarly for Mutooroo, of course. It's in proximity to Broken Hill, about 40-minute drive out to Mutooroo, which means that it's a drive-in, drive-out commute to any operation here. So this area lends itself very well to a classic spoke and hub regional development concept, with the processing pit here, the processing plant here at Mutooroo, accepting ore feed from these various other prospects in the surrounding area, which in turn will boost the copper output. And we've recently, earlier this year, just completed some drilling down here at this Mingeri mine prospect with very encouraging results. almost 50 metres of potentially ore-grade copper gold, and quite a continuous lode horizon defined over a couple of kilometres here. Hence, this is yet another prospect which could provide additional ore feed to Mutooroo. So in summary, Havilah's copper proposition is anchored by its two 100% owned copper projects. And those in the copper industry in Australia know there are not many remaining large-scale open pit copper development opportunities in Australia. And if you benchmark Kalkaroo against some of its peers, for which there have been recent transactions, those copper projects have transacted for multiples of Havilah's current market cap, which means we should be able to squeeze a lot of value out of Kalkaroo. And I'm thinking particularly of the EVA project, which was recently bought from Copper Mountain by Harmony Gold, in process of being developed. Similarly, the Hillside project, which was acquired by Mac Energy, and SMM's acquisition of 30% of Rio's Winu deposit up here in the Pilbara. Now, the Curnamona province that Kalkaroo sits in, and Mutooroo, is a highly prospective terrain for discoveries of copper deposits. It's very comparable with the Mount Isa Cloncurry block, and similarly the Gawler Craton, which it was probably once linked with in the ancient past. The difference is that the Curnamona province is far less explored, and so the upside potential to find new copper deposits here is immense. It's a favourable operating environment. There's low sovereign risk South Australia. There's no known environmental impediments to mining projects out here. Very good logistics, not far from Broken Hill, main highway, transcontinental railway running through the area. Power not so far away, and fortunately for us, suitable groundwater resources for processing. So Havilah's aim is to realise tangible value out of its copper projects through attracting development partners to help us develop Kalkaroo and Mutooroo, and if necessary, selling down equity interest to achieve that, by ongoing exploration success, particularly hopefully projects which can be standalone, but which at the very least could add additional ore feed. So that's the presentation that I gave at Copper to the World. I hope you found it informative. Just reinforcing Havilah's high leverage to copper and gold at this time when both of these commodities are in great favour. So it just underscores our optimism for the future for our company. So until next time, stay well.